What's going on, YouTube? So 2022 has just begun and it's already shaping up to be a very big year for electric vehicles. We have lots of major automotive brands such as Kia coming out with their full dedicated EV vehicles. And one of the most exciting ones is what I'm saying to right now. This is the all-new 2022 Kia EV6. This is Kia's first dedicated electric vehicle and the first of 11 new electrified models coming to the brand by 2026. So is this EV6 the real deal, and can it take on competitors like the Ford Mustang Mach-E and Hyundai Ioniq 5? Let's go ahead and find out. All right, so as always, we will go ahead and start out with the exterior design of this all-new EV6. Now, of course, this is going to be pretty much like no other Kia on the market, and it's also really not going to share any design elements with that related Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, before I get too into the details here, I do want to go ahead and address something. Drew normally covers this part, so if you're familiar with the channel, I will be covering the exterior as well as the entire video today because Drew was not able to make it to this Kia EV6 launch here in California. But let's go ahead and break down some of the things you might be interested in knowing about this EV6. So I'll start out with the trim structure. It starts out with the light, then you have the wind, then you're going to have the GT line like what we have today, and then you're going to have that Mac Daddy GT, which will be available later on this year. There is also a first edition, but that has already been sold out, so it's not going to be available unless you already have ordered one. Now, let's go ahead and break down some of the design elements that you're going to get with the EV6. So of course, we have this very sleek grille. It's very coupe-like, unlike the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which went for a more SUV-like approach. So we have a very sleek front fascia. It is featuring Kia's Opposites United design language. So we have this grille design right here. We do have a nice texture inside. It is going to have a shiny black finish. We have our Kia logo up top, and you might also be noticing this paint color. This is the optional matte gray paint color. It's a $695 option. And then for the lower area, you are going to have a very sleek design. Once again, you have a lot of different angles and shapes, and then we do have our air intake coming into the bottom. Now, the different trim levels will have slightly varying designs. However, most EV6s will have a very similar front design to this one right here. Now, as far as the headlights, let's turn our attention towards these. These are some really cool LED headlights, as you would expect out of a all-new dedicated EV. So let's break down some of the design elements. We have LED reflector headlights here. They're not going to be the projector style, and they are going to be standard on every single model of the EV6. We're also going to have a really cool daytime running light that features these dash designs, and then our turn signal is integrated on the top in that nice amber color, and it's also going to be LED. Now, in addition to that, I do want to point out that you cannot get LED fog lamps on any EV6. Now, a really part about finishing a car's exterior design is, of course, the wheel designs. And for the EV6, you are going to have really nice wheels standard on every single model. Now, what you're seeing right here is the 20-inch alloy that comes standard on the GT line all-wheel drive trim level. So as you can see, we have a beautiful design here. There's a lot of contrast elements. We have some black here, as well as some silver accenting. They're also going to be pretty aerodynamic looking wheels. Now, if you're curious about the other trim levels, those are going to come standard with 19-inch wheels. So even that base light model will have standard 19-inch contrast alloys that I think look really good. Now, coming up, you will notice our mirrors right here. They are going to be finished in a gloss black that gives it a nice look, contrasting with the matte gray paint, as well as this A-pillar here that's also blacked out. Now, as far as the functionality is going to be concerned, we are going to have an LED turn signal indicator. We're also going to have standard blind spot monitoring, as well as power folding. Now, we have quite a lot to talk about on the side of this all-new EV6 model. Now, you might be curious as to how this fits into the Kia lineup. What's its size? How big is it? All of those questions I'm about to answer. Now, in terms of length, you're looking at 184.3 inches in length, which is very similar to the Kia Sportage for reference in terms of overall length. However, Kia is quick to point out that the wheelbase is actually larger than that Kia Telluride. So this has a really, really long wheelbase coming in at 114 inches and some change. So what that's going to do is going to give you a big spacious cabin on the inside. However, You just have really short overhangs, so you're not going to have a giant 3-row like the Telluride. Now, as far as other things that you're going to notice here at the side in terms of the design, you're going to notice that we do have the flush door handles here that do pop out, as we'll see as we head into the interior. And you're also going to notice that blacked out A-pillar, like I mentioned earlier. We have blacked out window surrounds, and then down here at the bottom we do have a door blade, and it's going to shoot up and flow directly into the taillight, which I'll show you in the rear. Now, this EV6 is of course going to be very bold in its design. I probably don't have to tell you that. You can see it with your own eyeballs. Now, let's break down some of the design elements. We'll start from the top and work our way down. We do have an aerodynamic spoiler up here. You can stick your hand all the way through it. And then you have a sleek coupe-like design in the back. That brings you down to the taillights, which are going to be standard LED for the EV6. It's a very slender design. We have our Kia badge right here, GT line. You also have this element, which helps to give a cohesive look. It also wraps around the design. Of course, you're not going to have any exhaust pipes. This is an electric vehicle after all, and your tow rating is going to be 2,300 pounds for all but that very base wind model. Now, of course, a very important part about any electric vehicle is, of course, the charging. If you're curious where your charge port is, it's integrated underneath of the right tail light. I like where they put it. This is a really cool design. Now, you're probably curious about the charging itself. This EV6 is capable of 800-watt charging, which is the fastest available on any vehicle. Of course, it does share that with the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, as far as the battery sizes, you're looking at a 58 kilowatt hour battery for the very base light model. If you go for the wind and above, it will be a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. Now, if you're curious about the charging rates, we do have a rate from 10 to 100% on level 2 charging of around 7 hours. And then if you want level 3 DC fast charging, you can charge from 10 to 80% in as little as 18 minutes. Now, it is also worth noting that the vehicle testing, excuse me. Now, the charge port went ahead and shut on me, but I do want to mention the vehicle to load accessory adapter. So you can go ahead and plug in that adapter, and that will allow you to power various accessories on the outside. If you're camping, if you want to charge your laptop, whatever, this vehicle can actually charge that. So that's a really nice feature to have. Now, in terms of your warranty as well as your safety information, Kia does keep it pretty simple on me. You are going to have DriveWise standard equipment, so that's going to be forward emergency braking, auto high beam headlamps, lane keeping assist, as well as adaptive cruise control. That's going to be on every EV6. Now, additionally though, if you go for the GT line and above, that will throw in the advanced highway drive assist 2 function, which will do auto lane changing. Now, we can show you that in the test drive portion, so stay tuned for that if you want a tutorial. Now, as far as your warranty information, of course, this is a Kia after all, so you're going to have a very good warranty. You're looking at 5-year, 60,000 mile basic warranty and a 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. However, there is no complimentary maintenance, unlike the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Well, guys, we've talked a lot about the exterior design of this EV6, but now it's time for us to check out the inside before we talk about the powertrain. Alright, so walking up to the EV6, you do have Kia's typical key fob. This is actually a little bit larger than the typical fob because you do have these buttons right here. As you can see, we have the remote start system on this model. We also have the smart park since we do have the fully loaded GT line model. That's going to come standard on the GT line. However, smart entry and remote start are actually going to be standard equipment on every EV6. Now, as we approach the vehicle, you will notice that the mirrors go ahead and fold out, as well as the door handles pop out, so that is a really nice touch. And looking inside this cabin, you can tell that this EV6 is certainly very futuristic. So let's go ahead and hop inside. Now, as always, we will go ahead and start out with our seat and different color selections that you can get with the EV6. Now, what you're seeing here is the fully loaded seat design that you get on the GT line, and you can get this beautiful suede interior as well as the white accents, and then you have the black on the outside edge. And as you can see, the seat design itself is really neat. I've never really seen a headrest that looks like this, and it does give it that very sporty vibe that Kia is going for. Now, if you go for some of the other trim levels, you will not have this specific seat design. If you go for the light model, that's going to give you cloth and leatherette combination. And then if you go for the wind, you will have a full leatherette seat. And for that wind model, you will have a full black option as well as a black and gray combination. Now, coming over to this side and this seat itself, you will notice that the driver's seat is going to be 8-way power adjusting, and you have the 2-way lumbar support. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that this model does have the full reclining ability, so you can go ahead and recline this seat back all the way back for if you're charging. However, it does not have the power recliner extension that comes out like the Ioniq 5 we sampled back in December. Now, looking at the door trim itself, it is made of nice material. So we have a soft touch plastic here on the upper door trim. We have this leatherette combination right here, as well as a padded armrest. And then looking here, we have some piano black around our window switches. You are going to have fully automatic windows for the front too. You have power for the back. And then you're also going to notice that we do have 2-person memory seating. That is going to be standard equipment on every single EV6. So that's certainly a nice touch. And then as far as the materials for the rest of the cabin, you'll notice on the far upper portions, it is going to be made of a hard touch material. However, everything in this cabin is going to have some environmental friendliness going on. So we have this material right through here. As you can see, it's a very unique design. I've really never seen a design that looks like this on any other vehicle. So it's certainly very cool and unique. We also have the vents that go all the way across the dashboard, go into this area. And then down here in the middle area, you will notice we have a mixture of piano black plastics. However, I am noticing that everything fits together really well. Now, to start up the EV6, you're probably noticing this right here. This is your power switch. So unlike some other electric vehicles, you don't just press on the brake pedal to turn it on. You actually do have to push the start, and that is going to be standard equipment on every single EV6. I also like that it is mounted down here. It gives it kind of a sports car vibe. Now, after startup there, you're probably noticing these 2 displays right here. I will talk about this one later on in the interior here, but I want to focus on this area right here. We have a standard 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster for this EV6, and it is a part of that curved system. So if you look over here, you will notice that it's all one continuous piece, and it is nicely curved. Now, like I mentioned, this is standard equipment on every single model, so that is certainly a nice feature to have. And as you would expect, you can customize all types of different things with this display, so you can go through different modes here. And as you can see, it does have really, really nice graphics. You can cycle through anything that you're going to need, including your safety systems, as well as a few other settings. Now, additionally, with this gauge cluster design, as you cycle through your different drive modes, that does go ahead and change the gauge design. So you can have this nice sport mode, you can have any of the other drive modes. In addition to that, we're also going to have the Hyundai Kia blind view camera system. So on either side, when you signal to the right or left, it will go ahead and pop up the live camera feed. That is going to be optional on the GT line trim level. Now, coming above that, you're going to notice one of the coolest elements about this EV6, and that is the augmented reality head-up display. Now, I know it's a little hard to see on camera here. It's very difficult with our microphone set up to get it full in picture, but this is a really nice head-up display. It's quite large. It also displays a lot of information while you're driving, and it does have 3D graphics and arrows to really give you the most out of your head-up display. Now, coming back to the steering wheel of the EV6, you will notice that we have the really cool two-spoke design here. You just have it going across the entire middle area. It is going to be leather wrapped. We have some silver accenting down here on the bottom. We have double color contrast stitching on this GT line model. We're also going to have heating, which is going to be optional on the GT line, standard on the first edition model. It's also going to be manually adjusting. And then if we look at some of the buttons here, they are in the piano black, but you do have nice metal buttons right here. Now, as far as your wiper is concerned, it is going to be rain sensing for this fully loaded model. Now let's go ahead and talk about the very important aspect of interior storage for this EV6. Now, before we get into that, I do want to talk about this center console area. As you can see, it is made of that same pattern that matches with what you have up here on the passenger dashboard, which I think is a very unique touch. It also matches nicely with the seats. Now, opening it up, inside of here you are going to have a lot of space in the EV6. As you can see, it does go down quite a different ways. It does have a nice felt lining in the bottom. There are not going to be any USB ports inside of here, but as far as our coupons are concerned, of course, you know, we may be in California, however, the coupons are always coming with us. So we can shove those in there, no problems. But that is not the end of the EV6 storage space. So you have your 2 cup holders right here. You have a little storage cubby right behind that. And then you're probably gonna notice this down here. Now, since this is an electric vehicle, we do have a lot of additional space in this area because it's, you know, not a traditional vehicle. We have this whole area that we could fit pretty much anything we want. It does have sidewalls, so that's something worth noting. And then down here we have a USB Type-C. We have a 12-volt outlet, and we have another USB Type-A as well as a USB Type-C down there. Now, it is worth noting that this is not going to have the sliding center console design that you will find on the Ioniq 5. This is a fixed center console area, so it will not slide back and forth. However, it does have a really cool look, and I really am a big fan of the floating design that they've gone with here. Now, in addition to that, you will have standard wireless phone charging. So if you're curious how that fits in, you just slide it right there. And as you can see, it does fit right there. And then you have this light right here to show that the phone is charging. Now, pulling back from that, you will notice that you have your camera button right here. We also have our automatic brake hold. And then I do want to point out that parking sensors are going to be standard on the vast majority of EV6 models. Now, you're probably noticing this right here. This is your electronic shifter, which does allow for you to have all of this additional storage space to fit pretty much anything that you're going to want in there, whether it be a diaper bag or some groceries. Now, this shifter itself is actually a really, really nice shifter. And I don't know if you can tell as much on camera, but it does have nice grips here on the side. It's also made of really nice material, so it feels good to hold. Now, as far as the operation is concerned, you just twist to the right to go into drive, twist all the way over to the left to go in reverse. And this is a talking point for the EV6 because if you go for the GT line or above, you will have this 360-degree camera. That is going to be a feature that the Tesla Model Y as well as the Volkswagen ID4 do not have. The Ioniq 5 does have that functionality. However, this is a really good setup. As you can see, we have our traditional view right here. We have our 360 view right here. It's very high resolution. And then if you push this button right here, that's going to take you into a 3D spin. So as you can see, we can spin all the way around the vehicle, just like we've seen in other products like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi. And this is a really, really neat setup to see on a mainstream vehicle. Now, coming back, in order to put the vehicle in park, you just press the P on top. And then up here, you're probably noticing that we do have some seat controls. So 3-stage heated seats are going to be standard equipment on every single EV6. And then 3-stage ventilation is going to be standard equipment on all but the very base model. So that's a really nice touch to see included on the vast majority of EV6's vented seats, and then heated seats are actually standard equipment. Now, I will point out that this is a touch capacitive setup, so some of you might have preferred a regular button, but I will say it is very responsive. Now, working our way up the dashboard, you will notice that we do have this strip right here. And you're probably like, well, Mason, where is my climate controls? Is it exclusively in the display? And I'm happy to say it is not. So right now we have it in the mode. This is actually a dual function system. So we have it in the mode for audio controls. However, if you flip this switch right here, that will go ahead and switch everything over to your climate controls. So this is a really neat setup. It's something that we'll see in the all-new 2023 Kia Sportage. So I guess technically this is the first Kia to have it on the available on market. And as you can see, you do have a dual zone automatic setup. That is going to be standard equipment on every single EV6. And adjustment is actually really simple because this volume knob now becomes your temperature adjustment for both the passenger and here. So you can just adjust the temperature, super easy. All of that information is shown right here in the displays. And then you also have your fan speeds as well as all of your other controls for your rear and front defrost. And then to switch it back, You just tap this button right here and then it goes right back to your audio controls. So this is actually a really cool setup. It definitely saves space by having both functions live in this one area, and I do like that you have the physical knobs for easy temperature adjustment while you're driving. Now, as far as the audio system is concerned, I will provide an audio sample, but as far as the system itself, you're looking for a 6-speaker audio system on the light model. However, if you go for the wind and above, you will have a 14-speaker premium Meridian audio system, which is actually double the speakers of the Ioniq 5, even on its highest end trim level. And as you can see, you do have really cool speaker grills here on the side. So that is definitely a bonus for going for this EV6. But let's go ahead and take an audio sample. Now, of course, we do have that upgraded Meridian audio system, but I will say this has very solid sound quality. It's definitely an improvement over what the Ioniq 5 is going to have. But anyway, let's go ahead and make our way up to this display right here. This is going to be your Kia EV6 system. It's a 12.3-inch display, and this is going to be standard equipment on every single EV6. Now, a few features worth mentioning is that it is curved, so you can actually tell that when you're using the display itself. It has a really cool feel to it. It's also very driver focused, so that's something worth mentioning. Now, in addition to that, you do have standard navigation, so that is your integrated navigation setup, and you're also going to have standard Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. Now, it is worth noting that that is not going to be the wireless setup that you will get if you go for a smaller display in the Hyundai and Kia lineup. This is just going to be the wired setup since it is the 12.3-inch display. No wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto on the EV6. And then working our way up, we do have a standard auto-dimming interior mirror with 3 HomeLink garage door openers built into the bottom on the GT line and above. And in addition to that, on the GT line and above, you will also have this wide sunroof. Now, this is not a panoramic style sunroof because Kia was quick to point out that that does add a lot of weight to an electric vehicle, so that does reduce your range. So they said they went with this normal wide sunroof. As you can see, it does open up, which is a nice touch. A lot of electric vehicles do not have an opening moonroof, so it is definitely nice to see that this Kia EV6 opens up. However, I would like to see a panoramic offer maybe in the future. Now, and it's also worth noting that there is a shade. So for those of you who throw a fit in the Tesla Model Y and Mach-E that it doesn't have a shade, it does have a shade, so it's not going to burn the top of your head. Now, in addition to that, we are going to have LED interior lighting. Alrighty guys, join me in the new EV6's rear area. Now, I have to say this is a really, really nice place to spend time. This is actually my first time being in the EV6. This is, of course, the national product introduction, so I haven't been in this vehicle very long, but I have to say, sitting back here in this rear area, the biggest thing that strikes me is just the space. We're looking at 39 inches even of legroom, 38 inches of headroom, which is a really nice figure for the segment that is more than the Mach-E as well as the Volkswagen ID4. And I can just tell you, the rear legroom is probably the most impressive thing. As you can see behind my knees and the passenger seat, which is adjusted for an average size human, probably like me, you're looking at, I would say, a foot, if not more space. So there is just a lot of rear legroom. I also want to point out that the way they've designed these seats, they've given a really thin design, which does maximize your knee space. Now, in addition to that, we do have seat back pockets, and then the headroom is pretty good. It's not as large as something like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 just because of the way they've designed the EV6. Now, let's go ahead and break down some of the features though. Now, as far as what we're going to get, here in the center, you're not going to find anything. You will not have your own climate controls. However, you do have vents, and they're integrated here in the B pillar. Now, in addition to that, on the door trim, you will notice that we have two-stage heated rear seats. That is something that's not offered on the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and it is going to be standard on this GT line all-wheel drive as well as the first edition model. Now, in addition to that, we do also have USB Type-C ports, which are included in each of the seat backs if you go for one of the higher-end trim levels, not the base one. Now, as far as the center armrest, we can fold that down. We do have cup holders, and this is actually a really cool thing. I've never seen this before. You have a little storage area. However, you can slide this thing over top, and that transforms it into cup holders. Now, in addition to that, we do also have bottle storage in the door. Now let's walk up to the tailgate of this Kia EV6. Now you're probably noticing this right here. We do have a hands-free smart lift gate. That is going to be standard equipment if you go for at least the wind trim and above. So that is a nice touch to see on the vast majority of EV6s that people will buy. Now let's talk about the cargo capacity back here. In the EV6, you're looking at a pretty decent amount of space. You're looking at 24.4 cubic feet behind the second row seats. The second row does fold down 60-40 split, and that will give you a maximum of 50.2 cubic feet of space with those seats folded down. Now, it is worth noting that's about 10 cubic feet less than the Ioniq 5 and a lot of the main rivals. So this is going to be one of the smallest options in the segment. Now, of course, you do have to pay a little bit of a price premium because of that design that I've shown you on the outside. It does have that sloping design, which does mean you have less room to stack stuff up on the top. So kind of pros and cons there. Now, as far as other finishings, besides the 60-40 split folding seats, we're looking at a cargo cover up top, and then off to the left and right side, we have our seat folding levers. We also have a 12-volt outlet on the left side, as well as some LED illumination. And then if we lift up the cargo floor, you will notice that we have a little bit of underfloor storage. It's not a ton. It's about, I'd say, 3 or 4 inches deep, and it does go across the entire back. But you know what this is. This is an electric vehicle. So now let's go ahead and show you one of the most important parts about it, the front. Now, I do say one of the most important parts loosely because in this EV6, spoiler alert, there's not a ton of space. But let's go ahead and check out what the frunk does have to offer. So in order to get it up, you just use the release inside and then open it up like a traditional hood. And inside of here, you do have this EV thing right here. You pop that open, and then that's going to reveal, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 cubic feet of space. It's pretty much just enough to store your charging cable, so you don't have to throw that in the cargo area. I would love to have seen a bigger frunk. The Mach-E does have a lot of features when it comes to that, as well as the Tesla Model Y having quite a big area for you to put other stuff. However, that is how it's set up here on this EV6 and the Ioniq 5. So do just know that it does have a frunk. You can just put a charging cable inside of here so you don't have to clog up your cargo department. Now, your passenger seat on this EV6, I am very pleasantly surprised to see is the same 8-way power with the 2-way lumbar support as the driver. You also have that full recline function in case you're charging and need to take a little quick siesta. Now, opening up the glove box, we are looking at a really good sized glove box. This is probably one of the largest ones I've ever seen. They have an entire disinfecting pouch back here, so you can throw that in the back. And then as far as our coupons, let's get those out of the center console. See how they fit in? They do fit in there perfectly fine. So you're looking at a really large area. It is not felt lined, however, it is illuminated. Now up top, we do have a sun visor. It does have a large mirror. We have separated lighting. It is also LED, and then we can detach the visor as well as extend it out. Alrighty guys, it is time to talk about the performance as well as the efficiency of this EV6. Now, of course, this is a very important part about it, and I'm sure you're very curious. Now, like I mentioned earlier at the charge port, you do have 2 different battery sizes. So for the very base light model, that's going to come with the 58 kilowatt hour battery, but every other EV6 will have the 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. So for that standard 58 kilowatt hour model, you will have only rear wheel drive, and you're going to have 167 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, and you're going to have a range of 232 miles. Now your 0 to 60 for that will be 8 seconds. That is of course going to be the slowest EV6 in the entire lineup. Now, if you don't need all-wheel drive, you can upgrade to the 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery and keep the rear drive system, and that's going to be available on the Wind trim and above. And that's going to give you 225 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, and it's going to give you a range of 310 miles for this EV6. A 0 to 60 on that one is going to be 7.2 seconds. But that is not what we have with us today. We have the all-wheel drive with the 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery, which is going to give you quite a bit more power than the rear drive version. So you're looking at 320 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque, and that's good to get you to 60 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds. Now the range on that is going to be a little bit above 270 miles. And you're like, Mason, what about that fully loaded Mac Daddy Performance GT model? That is going to be offered on the EV6. You're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer for that. That's gonna have late availability in 2022. So hopefully we will drive that later in the year. And that's gonna have 576 horsepower and go 0 to 60 in less than 3.5 seconds. Now, I do have a little bit of unfortunate news about the driving for this EV6. Now, Kia does have an embargo on this vehicle until January the 31st. So in order to give you guys the content as soon as we possibly could, we did cut out that portion of this video. We will have a separate video coming up after that date that shows you all the driving impressions for the EV6. So if you're watching after that, go ahead and follow the link in the description and you can watch the driving impressions for this model. Now, I do also have the pricing for this EV6 that I can share with you. So the EV6 Lite, which is the rear drive base model that has 168 horsepower, is going to start at an MSRP of $40,900. Now, do keep in mind with all of these prices that you are eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. So that $40,900 price point will be more like in the lower $30,000 price point if you factor that in. The EV6 Wind will start at $47,000 for rear drive. The EV6 GT Line rear drive is going to be $51,200. The Wind with all-wheel drive will be $50,900. And then you get to this model that we're sampling here today, and that's going to be the GT Line all-wheel drive, and that's going to be $55,900. Now, pulling out this vehicle's specific sticker, we are looking at a few options. So we have the optional gray paint for $695, as well as the interior for $295, plus the $1215 destination charge is going to bring us to a grand total on this one of $58,105. Do keep in mind that tax credit though. Well guys, if you made it this far in our video, we really appreciate you, and we would also appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. It really helps us out and it doesn't cost you a thing. And it does help us to get to events like this to show you all the coolest products first. So it's really a circular thing here. We get to show you guys the coolest products if you subscribe. So please go ahead and do that. Also follow us on our other social medias like TikTok and Instagram. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.